Well, hello everyone to this special, albeit awkward discussion today. This presentation is on modern water closet. We're going to actually compare three very similar models from three different manufacturers. It's actually a series of models. You can pick up different versions thereof, and we're going to look at that. And we are doing this on behalf of World Toilet Day, which we'll discuss after we get started. So sit back and enjoy our potty promenade. We'll learn about the loo. We'll have an exam on the excrement eliminator, a bit about the bog. We'll hear about the head. We'll learn about the latrine. We'll have a veritable poop palooza. Come on back. Well, it is a bit awkward for a lot of people, but I did mention that we have this World Toilet Day, and it's not a very exciting thing to be thinking about, but the point of the World Toilet is just an awareness day to remind us, predominantly I think in the Western world, that 3.6 billion people in this world of ours do not have access to a modern hygienic toilet or type of waste removal system. That's a lot of people, and when we consider so many of the parasitic situations that we used to have in the good old days and some of the dysenteries and bacteriological things, 3.6 million people are suffering simply by virtue of where they were born in this world. If they were born in a part of the world that does not have a hygienic waste removal system, they are condemned to, in many cases, a shorter life because of the hygiene of it. And it's very, very important for us. In fact, we try to teach our children that everybody poops. Everybody poops. If it eats, it poops one way or another. And we have little potty training books to try to help them get over that unpleasant or yucky feeling and sometimes self-conscious feeling as we're coming out of diapers into our miniature selves as people. We can have some issues with that. I mean, so we actually have a cornucopia of literature dealing with that to try to help our little ones develop some proper hygiene habits and whatnot. So that's not what you came here for, to hear about books. We want to look at some of these models, and I have picked Lowe's. This is my Google search that you can do this yourself. I just did a simple Google search, and I'm looking for Lowe's to be the retailer for these three different designs. We have the VorMax by American Standard. We have the Cimarron, which is a Kohler product, and we have the Drake II. A lot of designers like the name Drake. You might have heard that name, or Toto rather, the Drake and the Drake II. Drake II has a little port here, if you can see that with my finger, and if I put my little finger over here, it's got a little port here, and these two generate a water path around the bowl, kind of like a little vortex, a little swirling. If we look at the VorMax models, I don't see an open tank here, but they have one path that the water comes across, and it has a bigger flow rate across here. The Toto, I think, has a single flush valve, which probably limits its effectiveness because, again, these are all siphon toilets, the way they work, and so they're going to require having a certain amount of water hit at the right time to cut off the air path so that the toilet actually pulls the material away, the waste material away. American Standard has two flappers, and it's a little bit different design, and I think it probably works a little bit better, in my humble opinion, than the more expensive Toto. Now, this one is an American Standard Homestead, and it is, let's slide over this way, here's an Esteem model. These two are $250 for a modern toilet with a twice the clean action that goes around like this. And why is it cleaner? Well, if you'll just think for just a second, I know this is not a normal over dinner type of video, but a standard toilet we've had for years has a ring with holes in it. It's a hollow rim design with holes in it, and then that makes it rain down over the side. So the path of the water is relatively short, right? It's only going from the rim to the reservoir level, the water level in the bottom. That's as far as that water is going to go, and it's not very forceful. It's just more like a gentle rain. And so we see in these other models that have the swirling action, regardless of the manufacturer, if you can send a large amount of water around a rim, it's traveling a great deal more distance as it goes around the bowl, which means if there's more of it with a faster, higher velocity, it is said, many of these, I've seen different manufacturers make the claim, that the swirling design cleans at least 2 times better than a conventional, and they mean a raining type of toilet. Also, without the holes in the toilet, anything that might rust inside of the tank And after you flush that rim, you know how you get just a little bit of dribbles that kind of want to dribble for a few minutes. So that may lead to streaking of your bowl, which leads to a lot more scrubbing, as well as the fact that the flush action, the rinse mode, which is the rain from the top, isn't as effective as the big tidal wave we sling around the top of it. So let's go back, look, and we're going to look, of course, at these three brands. I've looked at Lowe's for each one of them. VorMax Lowe's. This is Cimarron Lowe's. This is Drake II at Lowe's. And we see the Drake is the most expensive. It's got the name Toto on it. Some people are impressed by that name, and they can pay twice the price for a toilet. $500 for a toilet versus VorMax with one at $249. Now the question is, how do they work? And that's what I want to take the time to introduce you to this particular website. If you like this content, please go to calldeltosell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you. Thank you. It's the MAP, or the Maximum Performance. This is a testing company that rates urinals and toilets, these bathroom fixtures, and you can actually search their database to see how your perspective, this specific model you're looking to buy, is going to perform for you. Now, that may be a PhD in potty for you, because you just don't really need to know all this. But if you're going to replace a fixture, right now it's very common to have comfort heights or ADA heights or chair heights, depending on whose language you use. They're just normally a 17.5 to the rim plus the seat. A tall toilet versus some of the older ones, the smaller ones, or perhaps you even have one that's it's not an elongated but a round toilet, and that could be better for the gentleman to have an elongated toilet. It might be time to step up from one of those old rust mongers that drip down the side to something that flushes a little bit better. You're still going to have to clean the toilet, no matter what brand you get. You're still going to have to do the paperwork and the cleanup after it's all done, because they only wash below the rim. And yeah, you may have something, a little residue or something didn't quite make it over the siphon, but they perform much better. And most of these are rated at least water sense at 2.8 gallons per flush, and some of them are even 1 gallon per flush. So the design is very critical when we start looking at how well they actually pull material down per their gallon. Because why would you buy something that's less or marginal if you could buy something that is superior for less? So we want to look back at this page, and we'll see how it works. Because again, you can search whatever brand you want, and their scale is pretty close. It says, okay, in the black, we don't like that. If it's green, we do. If it's red, it's a little bit of warning, and of course, orange somewhere in between. The scale is 1,000 grams to 600 grams. That's your soybean material replacement. Your test material is made out of the soybean paste that has the general consistency in water, whatever, to make it resemble. It's an analog for, the stuff. And if it flushes in this range, 1,000 grams to 600 grams, it gets the green mark. 6 to 350, it gets in that orange, and red is not quite all that great. So let's just look how their little database may work for you. Because again, you can search whatever brand you want to look to. So I want to look for flush scores. We can actually come up here and get some really low ones if we want to see if any exist down in this area. But if we're specifically just wanting to see what a brand will do, let's start with American Standard. And let's start with American Standard, and let's just do the full branch here. Now, if you're shopping for a toilet and you want to look at the performance, you can choose an ADA or comfort height. This is the general name. It's a 17.5 inch rim height to 19.5. It's a size. We'll do elongated. We'll leave 1 piece and 2 piece to get them both. We'll do floor mounted and floor outlet, and we'll go a 12 inch, which is a standard for most modern homes. And let's do a gravity tank while we're at it, and just hit search and see what we get in this brand. Now, this is the American Standard brand. We'll do these we'll go to Toto next. And we see that this is a champion. This is not the swirly. This is a water drop, but it's at 1,000. Look at these scores. We want to pay attention to the MAP flush score if you want to check for a toilet. If you're buying a toilet because your other one doesn't flush real well, this is something you might want to pay attention to. All of these are 1,000. And we're going to go to American Standard. Go ahead and close that down. We're going to and now we're going to look for VorMax. We're going to see if we can find Esteem in here. Here it is. VorMax Esteem. That one right there. Elongated. And this is this toilet right here. $249 toilet. American Standard Esteem VorMax. Back to the thing. Esteem VorMax ADA height. That's a chair height. We'll hit see what it comes up at. And for $250, you can get either of these two model numbers. They're both water sense. That's 1.28 gallons. Gravity, 12-inch rough in gravity flow. That means they got a tank, and they both absolutely flush a kilogram or better of material. So let's go back up to the top, and we want to now look. Let's look at Drake, since that's sort of the top and it's at twice the price. Let's look at Toto Drake II. Okay, just cotton white's the color. So we're looking at a Toto Drake II. So let's go back to the MAP. But let's change this from American Standard to Toto. Now, I will report to you again, I am not anybody's employee. I'm just doing a show because I recently replaced the last two low height or standard height toilets. And we're just going to pull up. Let's look at them. Here we've got some at greater or equal to a kilogram. There's some. There's another page. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4. That's 5. That's 6, that's 7, that's 8, 9, 10, 11, and all of those looked very good. So now that we've done kind of the big test, let's change this to a specific model, and let's look for the Drake II. We're looking for Drake II, 1 gallon. That would be an ultra efficient. Let's try this one, the Drake II elongated. We'll search it and see how it rates. So the Drake II, that's twice as much money, actually flushes, according to this data source, less material. So it costs you twice as much money and flushes less efficiently. It's still highly recommended. It's still a good toilet, but it flushes less efficiently. So there we have that. Now if we go to the Cimarron, I think that was our last model, Kohler Cimarron. We're going to pull it up and look to see how it compares. It's reasonably similarly priced, but we're just going to change Toto to Kohler and see what they show on this page. Like we did the first two, they're 1,000 and 1,000 and 1,000 and 1,000 and so on. A little less selection, I think. Maybe about the same. Let's count their pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, they might have them limited because I know there are more choices than that, and I know that there's some that are rated lower flushing than 1,000 grams. So we can pull this and change this to Cimarron to look for that specific model. We have Cimarron 1.28, one piece. We don't want that because it's not the one we looked at. We'll look at 1.28 right hand flush elongated. Cimarron elongated ADA height. Let's go see how that particular water closet rates. There it is. Elongated ADA, and it's 1,000 water sense, single flush, high efficiency. Well, we do have these things that are the ultra high efficiency, which would be 1 gallon flushes. So let's go back to see if Toto has some. There are the brands. Change this now from Kohler to back to Toto. And this is something you can do if you're looking at price tags, just sitting window shopping, so to speak. We'll bring that up. We'll do Toto all shapes, all of them, and we'll pull up. We'll just see what we can get in here back in the Drake. We'll see. We should see an ultra high Eco Max Drake right hand ADA. Eco Ultramax ADA. It's not quite the same toilet. And we see that the Ultra Max, not quite the same toilet as the Drake, but we see it's only recommended because it's only 500. It's about half of the flush of the other. But what is it since? It still uses, since it's water sense, it'll still use that 1.28 gallons. And I think we saw some when we looked at the Toto line, we saw some that were certainly 1 gallon unit. So there we have a toilet that flushes less than half of what the American Standard did. So let's switch this back and find one of the ultra high efficiency American Standards. VorMax plus ultra high. This is 1 gallon per flush. Let's see how this particular American Standard toilet using 1 gallon per flush, let's see how well it flushes in the VorMax line. Let's roll it up for the big reveal. And we see that using 1 gallon per flush with the American Standard VorMax system, you can get 1,000 grams of flushing power out of that. Do we want to go back to the Cimarron, or have we used enough of the time looking at how you can look up your own toilet that you're shopping for, you can find it out there in this database to see how well it flushes and see if it uses 1 gallon or 1.28, or if it's an older model using 1.6 gallons. You can see how well it flushes. So you can get an idea of whether or not you're buying into a name or you're buying performance, because that's a big issue. I mean, if you can pay $250 and get a modern chair height toilet with that swirling action, and I think we talked about that, why the swirling action makes a difference to it. The general purpose of the swirling is they clean better, because we're sending a lot more water around in a circle. And because the path is longer, that same wave, that same tsunami of water that runs across actually has an ability maybe to do a little bit better rinsing of the bowl. Now, you're still going to have to scrub your bowl because it's not going to clean anything on the seat or above. And depending on your health or whatever, you may never need that for a long time, and it may be exactly what you need, very low maintenance. But some people have medical conditions, Crohn's disease, or ulcerative colitis, or IBS is some of the other ones. Maybe somebody's a cancer survivor of colorectal, or they have a colon part of it pulled out, and so they don't have all of the dehydration that colon normally gives them, and they may be a little more self-conscious, and even in their own home, about their body function, which is natural, but given a medical condition, it may be a big issue for them. So this can be a real benefit for people, also older folks, because the height of most of these toilets are chair height, or ADA height, or comfort height. People may use different brand or different names for it. They're all looking for an ADA height toilet. That's 17.5 to 19.5 inches, I think, is the range on it. So if you want a high toilet and you haven't had a new toilet in a while and it's low to the ground, now may be a time to get a toilet that has the extra cleaning action that a swirling flush gives it. Now, I'm sure you've been in some public restrooms that have them, if you don't have them at the house, and they're a pretty neat little thing. You still have to clean, you still have to do your weekly and monthly cleanings on your toilet, but it can actually do a much better rinsing your bowl. I have a demonstration. I did add a little green food dye to see if we can illustrate how this flushes a little bit better. I'm only going to do this once. I have recently replaced 2 short toilets on my own in my own personal house with 2 American Standards, which has kind of got me off on the research a little bit. So it's up to you. I present to you that site, which is the MAP, which is the maximum performance, what it stands for. And it is a site where you can look up any brand. You can use your internet just to find your prices for what you might look. Again, just a summary, I use Lowe's, not because I'm partial to Lowe's. They're not getting it. There's no relationship between me and Lowe's. I just want to show a single retailer that carries all 3 of the swirl design. For Kohler, they call it the Cimarron series. In Toto, they have the open side type, or the exposed trapway. The Drake II has the swirling action, and of course the American Standard has theirs in the VorMax. I will point out again to a comparison between, say, the Drake, which I believe is a single flush valve, and it may be why it's not as efficient. The Drake II only, as we just saw, the MAP rating was only 800. It was a $500 toilet, but a 800 gram flush rating on that toilet. It has 1 flush valve. And some people say, well, that's a plus because it's sufficient for my needs and I only have 1 flush valve to worry about. That's what I want. I like to have that little name on the back of my toilet. And other people may look at American Standard. I chose American Standard. It's a good buy for what you get, but the VorMax system has 2 flush valves, and with those 2 flush valves, it has an advantage that we can actually get a faster drain through both of those 2 ports because they're 2 separate ports. We can wash a little harder around the rim, and we can push a little harder toward the siphon to get it to flush better. And I believe the test results bear that out. It's just my opinion. I'm not a toilet engineer, but I am an engineer, and I do look at numbers, and this kind of stuff interests me. So it might have, you might say, well, but it's got twice as many parts, and so it's not as good because it has 2 flush valves instead of 1. I like the 1 on the Drake, and other people say, well, I like the 2. I like the advantage, the hydraulic advantage to having 2 flush valves is. And if you have to replace a flapper, to be quite honest, there's nothing to it. You just turn the water off, you flush it, and you reach down into the clean water, and you pop the little red or black flapper up, and you pull the little silicone flapper replacement, you put that back in, pooch it in the hole, you snap it back on, you're good for another couple years. I don't know how long it lasts, but it's not rocket science. So you get a choice. I'm not trying to say one is better than the other one, but I will say that if I can buy a VorMax at $250 that flushes 1,000 grams of simulant by a testing agent, and I can buy another one at say $500 that only flushes 800, I would think that I'm getting more flush for fewer bucks. Don't care what brand you look at, don't care what you need, but it may be an easy upgrade that you may really appreciate. Although you may not want a skirted one, which is the ones that's got the smooth side. They can be very expensive to install because they can be difficult to install, and you might just have an open trapway like I do. A basic flush toilet, just raise it up a few inches, may help your knees and your back out. And if you get one that happens to swirl the water around, they are said, I've seen different brands claim that they're up to 2 times cleaner than a standard drip ring type of toilet. And if you can get one that works on a 1 gallon of flush and you have a high water bill, it may not be a bad, very simple upgrade to do while keeping yourself clean and hygienic. So I think I've probably gone on long enough on the potty promenade, and we appreciate you watching. I hope that's actually useful to you. It may not be a subject you need very often, but you talk to salespeople and they seem like they want to sell you one brand or another. I just want you to know where the MAP testing site is so that you can look up the performance on any toilet you really want to look at if it's been tested. So there you go. Now, we talked quite a bit about the flushing and performance of it using the MAP site. We took you to that. Now we need to look at a comparison because we know about what our toilets are going to run. Let's look at the warranty for our toilets. Remember, the American Standard was about $250, and the Toto was on the high end about $500, so it's about twice the price. Let's go look at the warranties while we're here. I have some pulled up, and I'll give you the links. This is the American Standard website. We were looking at what? The Esteemed VorMax. The Esteemed VorMax, and down here it says download the spec sheet, which I have a tab pulled open. And when we look here, we should have the warranty somewhere. Oh, right there it is. It says lifetime warranty on Chinaware, 10-year warranty on all mechanical parts, and 1 year on the seat. I'm going to repeat that. Lifetime warranty on the China, 10-year warranty on the mechanical parts, and 1 year warranty on the seat. Well, let's go look at the Cimarron. I think it was the middle one. Pull it up. Here we have Kohler's website. Right there it is. We have specification right here for this particular model. Which one is this? This is a Cimarron. It just says plain Cimarron. This does have a round one. We may have been looking at elongated, but there is a specification. Surely the warranty won't be different with an elongated bowl. And somewhere on here, there it is. Kohler, 1 year limited warranty. See website details for warranty information. So Kohler says it's 1 year. Let's go look at the Drake. Now we know that the Drake was often perceived by many as being like the high end, or the Cadillac, or the Lexus, whatever you might want to call it. I don't have permission to use their name, but they're often thought of as being a little bit better. Drake II, 2-piece toilet, 1.28. That's the old EPA water sense action going on there. This one says, well, that's probably the list price at $706. We saw it, I think, a little bit lower than that for a Drake II. And down here we have downloads and product specification spec sheet. Right there's a spec sheet, and I have it pulled up. Toto Drake closed coupled a toilet. All right, we're going to look through here, and somewhere on here is the warranty information. There it is. Warranty, 1 year limited warranty. So there you have it. Didn't want to take up too much time with that, but we see, like when I did the research, I looked at it. I seem to have a better warranty with American Standard. I seem to have a better design with the American Standard. This is my personal opinion. And the price is no more expensive than the nearest competitor, while the possibly more of a perceived prestige brand has twice the price and only a 1 year warranty. So I think we need to wrap this video up. One final word. If you want to drop a deuce in your dunny, a backed up bog just isn't funny. Read the instructions. I know you might think a toilet doesn't need instructions to it, but honestly, you can make some serious mistakes and misjudge the unit based upon your ignorance of how it operates. An example, I can take all of the water that flows across the Niagara Falls in one day, and I can flow it through a toilet and never flush it. And that's all I got to do is let it trickle in a finger or two's worth of water at a time so that it's slow enough that it just rolls in the bowl and out the back across in the trapway. The way a toilet flushes isn't just having the trapway to hold the water to keep the poo gases, the methanes and gases from coming up from the decaying material. It's not just keep the unpleasant smells out, but it works as a siphon. If I put just a little bit of water, it rolls over the top and does no good. None whatsoever. I saw numerous complaints about the VorMax system, people saying it doesn't flush well even if you hold the lever down and you get floaties and sinkies left in the bowl and it doesn't flush, it'll barely flush at all. Read the instructions. Understand how it works. I'm just telling you, don't blame the water closet, anybody's water closet, if you don't operate it right. Long flushing does no good. Why? If you know that little trapway, the little snake-looking part in the back, well, in the low spot, it does hold water in there, so it keeps those gases from coming out. We know that part. But what most people don't understand is the way a good, strong flush works is it shoves a bunch of water right up real fast so that it cuts off the air. And once that water and waste material and paper goes across the back, it falls down, gravity assisted, and because it's solid, it'll fall down and it will suck the other material and the other water up. Once you break that seal and there's air going past, all you're doing is losing prime on the bowl. So read the instruction. Don't blame the equipment because you don't operate it right. Just push the trip lever down, let it go. The toilet will do its job. Because you might not see the malfunction on the flush you just did, but you might see it on the subsequent flushes because now you've got the incorrect water levels, you've got too much air, and it doesn't have enough to get that trapway blocked off with water and materials. It's got to block that trapway off to get that pull effect on the backside when it falls down going into your sewage line within the house. It's your drain line. It's just very, very simple. So just read the instructions and you'd be surprised when you operate it the way the people who designed it, they tend to work a little bit better. So I hope this is useful to you. No matter what brand you choose or whatever you do, you find the website. You can go see how much that particular model. You can look it up, how much water it uses, and how well it actually functions. So that's it. That's probably more than you'll ever need to know in the world. And I'm sorry I didn't get into flushometers, the tankless models, or the skirted. It's just all it is just some China coming down the side to hide the trapway. Some people call them easy clean. They can be a real booger to put in because you can't get to those little bolts that we need to. Those little bolts that you never really look at, and the only time you see them is when you're cleaning the side of the unit off. But get you one of those if you want a skirted unit. It's up to you. A flushometer is nothing more than a little water valve. It doesn't have a tank. It takes line pressure off the house, and you need to have some. It's got a little hole in the diaphragm, and when you flush it, it drops the pressure on the top of that, usually, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I tore one apart, looked at one or whatever, but when it drops that pressure off, there's nothing holding that valve down, and that valve opens up and lets more water flush. But since some of that water back feeds on top of that diaphragm, eventually pressure closes that valve off. There are some tankless models that do that. There are bidet models, but for a bidet to work, you really need some AC power on the GFI down there by the toilet so that you can power that heater, else you're going to get a bit of a rude awakening every time you use it. So this is a very simple toilet. It's certainly an upgrade over the old style, the old design, and if you have a short toilet, I would recommend getting a chair height toilet just because. Treat your seat. That's all you need to do. Treat your seat. It's something we got to do. I hope this is useful. I hope I'm not being too flippant with it. I know it's not a conversation people want to have, and it's not so much this one's better than that one, although I think everything is self-evident. You figure it out. It's your choice, your money, your house.